Welcome everybody to the Fantasy Golf Insider Webcast and Podcast. I'm Jeff Bergerson, joined as always by my partner, Zachary Turcotte. We are with FantasyGolfInsider.com, your number one resource to make you and keep you a profitable and successful DFS golf player. If you have not yet become a premium member, we encourage you to do so. It's a great time of year, the Wyndham Championship this week, and then we go into the FedEx Cup playoffs.
The fall season is going to be very profitable.
It's going to be good.
Sure. Yep.
And so it's an exciting time for DFS golf. So come on aboard. We welcome you. This broadcast is also available as a podcast on iTunes and Stitcher. If you want to listen to us, go ahead and download us on there. Give us a good 5-star review. Also, if you'd subscribe to our YouTube channel, we would appreciate that as well. Zachary, before we dive into this week's Wyndham Championship, let's talk a little bit about the two events last week, the Olympics and the John Deere. The Hardcore Core that I post every week had both winners, Justin Rose and Ryan Moore, which is always the number one thing to do in GPPs, large field GPPs, is make sure you have the winner.
That's always a good key to success. It's just like playing Hold'em poker. Just keep flopping sets.
That's right. When you flop sets, it's easy,
Pick
right?
the winner, you're good to go.
The guys in my core who I play personally, I always play my core as my own teams, right? And if you play a lot of DFS golf, you know the frustration when you got something good going on Saturday, heading into Sunday, you see the big green numbers on there.
I hate those green numbers.
And I was sitting at like 8,800 heading into Sunday morning, and I was second in a Fantasy Golf World Championship qualifier, behind by a handful of points or something. And then as my guys teed off and went progressively backwards.
Did you watch this happen live on Sunday? That was your mistake.
I'm watching Colsarts fall back, and Bordy started it late Saturday. Yeah, boogie was.
Yeah. There's no bonus points for that, is there?
There is not, actually.
It's too bad.
So I watched my 8,800 dwindle down to about 3,900, where it ended up at the end of Sunday. So even though I was up a decent chunk of money, it still does not feel very good.
No, it's a little bit deflating.
Yes, it is. What did you take away from the Olympics and the John Deere?
You know, I felt like our picks were pretty good overall with the Olympics in terms of the guys that we were on. You know, Kuchar started a little bit slow and then moved up. We knew he wasn't going to win.
Right.
If we could have just had like a medal bet for Kuchar, I think anybody would have jumped on that, because I knew he'd probably take second or third, because that's how Kuchar does. He's just a little bit off of being able to win it. So he did really well. A lot of our European players that we looked at in the lower range jumped up and played well. You know, Czech scored plenty of points for us at a good price. Bordy
was good for his price,
right? But
just when he's locked in at like fourth place,
a little bit disappointed. I started talking a little bit towards the end of the week about Mikko Ilonen on Periscope. I think this is a guy that not as many people knew about. He ended up having a pretty good weekend. We were big on Cabrera Bello and Grillo. Both of those guys did really well. So we were on quite a few of the guys. It turned out in the Olympics to be in GPPs you had to have Justin Rose. For sure. Between the win and the hole in one, he was over 20 points. He was like 30,
140 points.
He was like
total.
30 points higher than the second place finisher. So without having the winner, you were going to be in a little bit of trouble.
And to win a large field, you also needed a couple other guys. Marcus Fraser was one of those guys.
Fraser was the key player. You had to find him. We kind of talked a little bit about potentially this style course being something that Australian players might be able to handle well. And it was kind of debatable as far as how that worked out. I mean, it didn't really have any special play for Scott Henn.
Right.
Danny Lee plays out of New Zealand. I don't know that it necessarily helped him all that much, but for whatever reason, Marcus Fraser found his stroke early on.
He was nailing putts the whole damn week.
Right. I mean, really, it was all just round one. After round one, he played decent in round two, and then fell back pretty much the rest of the weekend. But he was the key for GPP. Obviously, a lot of people were going to be on Stenson. A lot of people were going to be on Rose.
A lot of winners had Rodolfo Casoban as well.
Down at 5,900, where they just said, I'm familiar with this guy. We've seen him play pretty well on the Latin American Tour, and he played well a couple times. He made my write-up for the Puerto Rico Open, back about 4 months ago. So it wasn't somebody we were completely unfamiliar with. I just didn't see him moving up the leaderboard as much as he did. But
he scored points.
He did.
Points.
Yeah, and that's what you needed to do. You really needed to stack 2 or 3 of those guys at the top and then just roll the dice. Even with a guy like Seamus Power, who who was actually a pretty good pivot off of some of the other guys that were down there. He fell back towards the end of the event. But
he did. He scored a lot of points.
He's been really good on the Web.com Tour this year. You're going to see him next season on the PGA Tour, the Irishman. So, you needed to be you need to maneuver a little bit on the Olympic side. But I think overall our picks were pretty good. The payout structures were really difficult for some of these events.
For sure.
The $100,000 first place one, almost all the money in the top 10, which isn't too unusual. But I was looking at it yesterday at the end of it. In the $3 event, I had 71 teams in the event. 32 of them cashed, and I was basically flat for the weekend in that event, which, that's pretty frustrating when you're up between 40-45% of your teams getting into the money and you're just kind of break even. That just shows you just how hard you have to hit the picks in order to be really successful overall. So,
have you softened your stance on hating the Olympics?
I don't know about that. I think I would have liked it better had there been, had we really had the full field with all of the best players, had they not just pussied out for the Zika virus, which was completely media overblown.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, as it is every year.
No, Adam Scott said it was because of the format.
The format, right. I can see.
Kiss my ass,
I'm
Adam
sure
Scott.
he'll hand
what
back.
The hell do you want?
Sure he'll hand back his $1 million WGC check that he earned earlier in the season.
You can't play teams in the Olympics. It just wouldn't work with that damn many countries.
You'd have way too many guys. It would take way too long to get through everything. I don't know what kind of format they would do. There's a lot of countries that can't put 4 quality players out on the course.
Oh, of course not. They can barely put 1.
So I think it gets to be a little bit silly trying to, you look at something like the Ryder Cup, there's like 10, 12 guys that are going to go out there for the U.S. and then
but
all
most countries
Europe.
don't get any representation. So
no, it wouldn't be something that I would enjoy. Maybe they could expand it to 150 and play what they do typically on the PGA Tour where they cut it down. Yeah, exactly. And then you've got a little bit more drama in terms of that cut line and then getting through. Because I didn't like the fact that there were some guys who started really slow. And then the last couple rounds, Saturday, Ricky Fowler makes a pretty big move.
Oh, for sure.
Bubba ends up making a pretty big move late. I'd like to see a little bit more pressure in the early rounds as opposed to just kind of holding position and then making a move.
I liked
late.
it.
So I thought it was okay.
I enjoyed following it.
I thought the coverage was great.
Coverage was awesome. To have it on early in the morning and go through the final shot.
Right.
Is that so difficult?
It's like something clicked for him. and now this week we'll go back to
between 2 and 5.
Yeah, 2 to 5.
You don't see the entire round.
We're
weather delay, they'll
line.
push it,
We now cut in for the Web.com tour because that's what all you really came to see here today. And I get a little bit frustrated. I thought it was fine. I really didn't have any. Issues with it. I didn't have any problems with it. The finish was exciting. You had Stenson and Rose battling it out. 2 solid players. Yep. The 3 guys who took home medals, I was pretty happy with. The first day looking at the leaderboard, I was like, the fuck is this? Marcus Fraser, Graham Dillette. This is
you knew he
outrageous.
wasn't going to end
Get
up there.
rid of this event right now if these are the guys who are going to be up at the top. So now by Sunday, I was okay with it. I wasn't as okay with the way that the John Deere
sucked.
Working out.
God, that tournament sucked.
It was brutal. We had just 2 optimal lineups there this week. One of them actually, and I know this probably, I can't say this across the board for everybody. One of them actually cashed for me with a 3 of 6 team.
Nice.
Was how bad it was. There were so many people who got taken out by Daniel Summerhays, Jerry Kelly, Robert Streb, Spencer Levine, Chris Stroud. It just
got no production out of
Brian
Zach Johnson.
Harmon. Yeah, you got nothing out of him or
Stricker.
Steve Stricker.
Right.
So that event was all over the place. We actually both had good shares of Ryan Moore. I had 25% of Ryan Moore, and you had a good chunk of him. Yep. So that helped out a lot. It's just the trouble of getting those other guys in. Adam Hadwin was my other big buy. Him and Levine were my 2 50%ers. Right. Hadwin, great work. 8th place finish.
Yep.
Couldn't be happier with it. Played exactly the way you'd anticipate him doing in that event. Levine, just terrible first round. Couldn't get it back at all in the second round. That hurt. And then when you have that many guys up around 9,000 and 10,000 that just whiff completely on the cut, it makes it difficult. And then John Rahm, he just had an okay event. If you're going to pay up for him, you need him to be a top 10 kind of guy. So it was a bit of a struggle. Getting 1 of 2 in as far as the optimals go was good for me. I was happy to split on cash considering all the carnage that was there, although I'm sure that, looking across the board, there just weren't that many great 50-50 contest to begin with. I didn't like that very much at all. When I'm looking at it and, there's 20 guys in this one. There's 11 guys in this one. I mean, there just weren't a lot of great contests that you could go after this week.
I had very minimal action in the John Deere.
I had about $200 in there. I think I took back about 140, so it was down about 60, which, considering all the guys who blew up, wasn't the worst. My 1 6 of 6 lineup was actually in the top 50 or so for a while in the $3 event, which was kind of fun, except that wasn't as big of an event this week because they completely fucked up how they put this event together. They needed like 4 other $3 events.
I know.
I've never seen it start at this where they have where they have 9,000 in the first one they offer, and then like 15,000 in the second, and 18,000. I mean, they just kept adding more and more space.
They came out and apologized for it.
They're trying to press people to get into the Olympics, which didn't even have as big of an overlay as we would have hoped for or anticipated.
Not even
at the end.
Was there even an overlay in the $3? There was a slight one in the 20 and one in the 300, but not a ton.
No, it wasn't that huge. Yeah, I mean there was what, maybe $50,000-$60,000 of overlay.
Yeah, not much.
Not a huge amount to chase, but it did make it a little easier to cash, so it had a little bit of extra value, which I threw in a couple extra lineups, didn't help, but yeah, so put those two in the books. Is a weird week. You're not going to see too many formats like the Olympics. Or weak fields, really weak fields. Like
on easy courses like that.
Yeah. Like the John Deere. So unorthodox week. It was a good week to keep it kind of light overall and just kind of enjoy some golf.
Well, since we yabbered so much on that, we won't do shot of the week, but we need to get some liquor in us. So why don't we just do that right now? Yeah. Keep this show rolling.
Here's to the Zika virus for fucking up the Olympics.
This week we have the Wyndham Championship, the last event before FedEx Cup playoffs start. It's held at Sedgefield Country Club in North Carolina.
That's where Davis Love III came out of nowhere last year.
That is, yes. A little bit crazy. We've got a stronger field this year, though, I feel.
Yeah, I think so.
The course is 7,127 yards. It's a par 70. Key stats, we're going to go with pretty much the basics this week. Strokes gained tee to green, strokes gained putting, birdies are better, par 4 scoring, scrambling.
A little bit of scrambling. Yeah, that'll help out too.
We actually have the European event.
That's a dog.
That's the.
I thought the John Deere was a soft
bad.
field.
Oh, stop right there. The D&D, whatever. Real Czech Masters. It's from Albatross Golf Resort.
Why is John Daly playing in the Czech Masters this week? Is he?
I don't know the answer to that.
Doesn't that seem completely?
It's a little odd. I don't know.
John Daly to be headed over there.
It's in Czech Republic.
Really strange.
So par 72, and that is a 7,467 yard course. Not much to do with stats. I mean, you do what the European Tour tracks, so that's what we'll go with.
Only 2 years of tournament history.
Yep. Putts per round, greens in regulation, driving distance, driving accuracy. We'll go with those.
Yeah.
What field would you like to talk about first, sir?
Not the Czech Masters.
All right, let's do the PGA Tour. Starting at the top, anyone intrigue you up top?
Well, I think you're going to have to start with the course horses. There's a couple of guys who I will probably start a lot of my cash game lineups with. I'm going to take them both from you. Webb Simpson and Bill Haas.
All right.
I thought those guys were really fairly priced this week at 10-2 for Simpson. 9,600 I felt like was a great price.
I think that's going to jack up their ownership too.
It's got to be. And that's gamesmanship, just game theory right here. You can lock both of those guys in on your cash lineups. You look like you're maybe not going to do that. Is that something you don't think you're going to do?
No, I'm not saying that.
You let out a big sigh.
I'm a little bit discouraged, though, because I like both of those guys. I just think their ownership will be through the roof.
It'll be huge.
No one's going to be on Ricky. His form has been lousy. He's been low.
Cash games. I think
that's
what I'm saying. In cash games, I think you'll just line up those two. There's so much value in the low range. There's a handful of guys at the $5,900 mark that I might even play in cash games this week, just because I think I'm confident enough in them making the cut. If I can load up 3 studs at the top, and then have a couple of decent players in the middle, and one or two of those guys at the bottom to fill it in, I'm happy rolling the dice with that in cash games. Now GPP, I think the play this week, as it was last week, is last week we said stay away from Zach Johnson, and that was hard. It was hard not to.
I know.
ZJ.
Yep.
into the computer as I was writing my article. It was really hard. And then the first day, he's right up at the top.
Oh, of course.
And I'm just like, oh, fuck me again. I mean, I couldn't have just written that up any better. And then he fell back, and he was in like the 30s by the end of it. He was completely out of it. And if you bought him, you were a sucker. So
it was a good fade.
Yeah, so that worked out well. And that's the play this week. You have to stay away from Webb Simpson and Bill Haas, I think, right up there at the top. And I think what you're going to do is you're going to pay up a little bit this week to be contrarian. There's 3 guys at the top of this chart that I don't think as many people are going to be on. I think there's going to be some people who are going to be on Patrick Reed.
Probably
because he has a win here.
Yeah.
He's got a win. So
and he's been playing really well lately.
Exactly.
He just can't get over the
He's had
top.
five straight top 15s. But, within that, he's been in such a tight range. He's only had one. He's been between 10 and 13 in all of his last 5. He just can't punch through and have that top 5 or top 3 kind of finish that you really need. So 12-2, I'm not going to pay for him. I'm not going to pay up for him. I think there's going to be enough people on him, considering that he won here 3 years ago, that I'm going to stay away from him. I may start looking at one of 2 players at the top, Hideki or Ricky Fowler. Hideki, because he's missed the cut here the last couple seasons, which almost always, if you have one missed cut here, people kind of overlook it. 2 in a row, it starts to feel like it's a trend. They don't like that. And he hasn't been great over the last few months, although he did play pretty well his last time.
I had him a lot last time out, and he was at under 5% owned. So I think we're going to see a repeat of that.
There's absolutely no reason why he wouldn't handle this course well. I think fatigue in previous years, maybe by the time he got here, but he hasn't been playing that much. So he's had a pretty good amount of rest. He's only played twice over the last 5 weeks.
Yep.
I think he's a nice
that's a legit contrarian play, because people are going to be, like you said, on Simpson and Haas, and I think they're going to be on John Rahm too.
For sure on John Rahm.
Super popular last week.
Ricky, I think there's going to be 1 or 2 guys who will just take the plunge and go big.
Load up on
Ricky and load up. I don't know what to do with Ricky. I didn't buy him at the Olympics. I haven't been buying him much. I bought some of them at the WGC event back about a month or 2 ago, where he did pretty well, and then I bought him a little more a week later at the Open, where he really didn't do all that well. And I mean, he really hasn't done much.
He hasn't. He's been poor
since spring. Is that somebody that you can picture yourself taking a shot at?
I tell you, I like some guys down in the lower 8K range. So when you're talking about cash games, I think I'm going to go that route as opposed to the 2 guys
I would definitely
top.
not go Ricky in cash.
No, but I think the guys I like down in the 8K range, like Kisner, Keegan, Duffner, Horschel, English even, I like those guys for cash games as well.
Yeah. No, there is a lot of, what's nice in a little deeper field like this is you really do get a lot of names that get pushed down a little bit in terms of price. I mean, you got Cabrera Bello there at 8,900.
Yeah.
He's been great all season. He's only missed 1 cut. He missed back at the Players. Other than that, he's really been lights out.
Yep.
You can almost count on him for being somewhere right around the top 25 week in, week out. So at 8,900, he is a pretty good play. You know, Dirt McGirt's been a guy who's been there for us most of the year. He's had a couple of rough moments, as you would expect along the way. But he's a North Carolina guy. He's got a great record here. 8,700 I think is a pretty fair price for him. I mean, if you wanted to just skip the top range, you could probably build a pretty good cash lineup from the guys between that $9,000 to $8,000 range.
Oh, for
you
sure.
started with 7,900 with where Duffner is, and then worked your way up. There's plenty of guys that are definitely available right there. Dropping down a little bit, is there anybody in like the lower $7,000 range at all that you'll be looking at this week?
There's a couple of guys. I know Robert Streb really kicked my ass last week a bit.
Yeah, he was pretty brutal.
I'll give you one name. I got a couple in the core that I like, but I'm going to go contrarian and go with Spencer Levine after he totally dicked over so many people last week.
Me.
Yes, and me as well. But he's 5,900 this week. He had an 18th place finish here last year, I believe, and he had 2 good finishes 2 weeks before last week. So I think he's a legit $5,900 play.
I'm gonna light the match here for the Harold Varner III train. He's also down at 5,900. His price has come down a lot. His last 3 events really have not been too spectacular. 66 miscut. But they were pretty tough events, so it wasn't. It's not like. I mean, I think one of them was at the Open Championship. One of them was the PGA Championship. So I can forgive him a little bit on those. Everywhere else, he had been kind of crushing for the 5 or 6 weeks leading up to that point. And Harold Varner III, he grew up in the North Carolina area, played his college golf out in that area. 3 years ago, he took 7th place at this tournament. So for $5,900, I'm going to load up. I'm probably going to include him on at least one of my cash lineups this week. So I'm feeling pretty good. He's going to want to make a strong impression. So Harold Varner III, $5,900. Is there anybody else in the
but I'm going to save him.
All right.
I'm going to save them for my core, and you can save them for the daily spin. What do you think of that? Right. One thing you do owe props to the person who beat you in Wacky Wagers last week. We didn't even bring that up. Who beat you?
I got swept this past week. I actually had 2 bets, and he won both of them. The John Deere, he just absolutely annihilated me. He got 5 of 6 guys through the cut.
Oh, jeez. I hope he entered that in some other contest.
I think he had over 500 points. I mean, he almost double the point. I mean, it would have definitely placed in all GPPs for the week. It was a pretty superior lineup, and if it hadn't been for Spencer Levine, he'd have had all Sixers. So that was a pretty solid lineup. Olympics, we were actually battling back and forth the entire weekend, and he was ahead, I was ahead. I was ahead by about 20 points going into the last day. And he just had a couple of guys surge down the stretch to end up beating me by a little less than 10 points overall. So that was really disappointing. I actually got somebody to put up wedges against me. He put up irons against me. And I lost both of them. So now I owe him the John Daly golf ball. I owe him the Scotty Cameron putter head. And I owe him some FGI swag. So
you got cleaned out.
I know.
Who was that? Was that Caleb?
Caleb
Thomas. Congratulations, man.
Yeah,
for giving Miz an ass whooping.
I know. It's discouraging because I had won so many in a row. I just kept accumulating prizes. I was getting used to just winning all these heads up. And all of a sudden, I'm like, oh, I don't get to collect a cool prize. And I got to give away a couple.
You need to spend more time researching.
Man, I know. I should be on this kind of stuff, right? I should know.
Your 30 hours a week researching just isn't cutting it.
That's ridiculous.
Should we talk a little bit about the Czech Masters?
No.
Okay. We'll talk a little bit about it if you want information. We got it all on the website for you Euro Tour members. If you're not a Euro Tour member, go ahead and sign up for the package. Perry does his preview column. I do a hardcore core for the European. We have the odds versus pricing.
This one is so tough.
Yes, it is.
They've only played it here for 2 years.
Yep.
The field's a little bit on the softer side, and the pricing is really tricky.
It is really tricky if you try and build a team.
Because you're just not going to see that many names below the mid-7,000s that you even recognize.
Right.
You're going to see a lot of Czech players, basically, who never play in any other events.
If you were to go with a top-end guy, who would that be if you had to select one right now?
You know, in looking at this list, I think you got to stick with the guys who've been hot. I mean, if you can fit Thomas Pieters into your lineup.
Yeah, he's really good.
I mean, the top 3 I think are pretty dependable. If you look at Pieters, Sullivan, or Westwood, those guys are reasonably dependable. The other guys going down from there, I don't feel very comfortable with at all. I mean, Matthew Fitzpatrick has been
who knows
all over the place.
Guy.
So, I mean, if you're going to pay $10,200 for him in a weak field, he could very well miss the cut. So I'm not that excited. You see Jamie Donaldson. We saw what he did just a couple weeks ago.
I'm never on Donaldson. There's no way I'm paying $10,200 for him.
Yeah, Matt Southgate at like 93.
That's crazy.
He's made less than half the cuts that he's played on the season. So, you know, I pretty much stuck with a lot of form guys.
I like Nino Bertazio.
Bertazio was all right. I looked at Callum Shinkwin.
Yep.
I looked at Richard Bland. I looked at Bradley Dredge. A lot of these guys are kind of in the middle price range.
Right.
Eddie Pepperell is kind of in that middle price range. So those are the handful of guys that are right there. Lee Slattery, Tommy Fleetwood. But I didn't really want to stray that far below that. The only guy that I looked at in the lower 6 range who stood out at all for me was Dean Burmeister at 6,300.
Right.
I didn't see much above, definitely nothing below that. But even right above him, there wasn't much that I could see. And he's been relatively good. He's had some stumbles over the last month or so, but for 6,300, if you're looking for a GPP guy,
right,
one of the very few that is probably going to stand out in that range, who has made at least 40% of the cuts that he's played in this year. So yeah, not that much. It'll be one where I stay relatively soft. I'll probably just throw in a handful of cash lineups for there.
We'll uncover some names.
I mean, the big thing that we want to do with with the European Tour isn't so much to go over there to just load up, because the contests
they're not that big.
Right, exactly. The contests are small.
Yeah.
So you're going to collide against a bunch of sharks if you're over there. What you want to do is to play kind of small, use it for research. Like what we had for the Olympics. I mean, coming into the Olympics, we were at a huge advantage because we knew who all of these players were. So we could kind of pick and choose through that mid 7K to low 6K range and say, hey, these are the guys who have really been...
Cole sorts, Yeah,
these are the guys who've stood out again and again and again that we've seen over time. And you could see in the Olympics, the guys who were in the know, who had followed the European Tour,
for sure.
They were the guys who did well last week, and you saw a lot of the pros. You know, John Deere's kind of all over the place, but the Olympics, you could see a lot of the top level name pros, guys who follow the European Tour, did really well. So use the Olympics as a research tool to become familiar with these guys, so that when they come over for WGC events, when they come over for the majors, and when we have the Olympics once every 4 years, you're ready to go. So that would be kind of my advice for events like these, until we get to the point where, you know, we start playing for the race to Dubai in November.
And all the big names.
And then the big names will come back again, and you'll be
at a huge advantage.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
All right, that'll do it for us. If you have any questions for us, email us at info@fantasygolfinsider.com. Follow us on Twitter at @fantasygolfers. Jason does a Periscope on Tuesday nights at 9 o'clock Central. Zachary does Periscope on Wednesday night at 9 o'clock Central. So if you got any last-minute lineup questions, tune in to see those guys.
If we get 100 retweets of me doing my broadcast,
again? Here we go.
we'll get it going early this time. 100 retweets.
Yeah, what are we doing?
Of my broadcast, we will give away 1-year annual membership to the site. So be there.
But who gets it?
It'll be for one of the 100 who retweets.
Oh, so is it random drawing?
We'll just randomly select somebody from the 100 that retweet it. So if you're one of those lucky 100, you know, then that's what we're gonna do. So.
All right, sounds good. Best of luck this week. Next week we start with the FedEx Cup playoffs. So the Wyndham Championship is this week. Gear up and get ready to go, folks. And we'll talk to you next week. Good luck this week.
Good luck. All right, I'm ready.
Welcome everybody to the...
Oh, are you ready? Do you need a deep breath?
Getting ready to do this by myself.
Lion face. Lemon face. Lion face.
Chip, it's me and you next week, buddy. You're on this side of the camera with me. You know that, right? Yeah. Okay.